NFL.com has come out with 20 players who figure to play, or 7 players who figure to play better in 2020. List was put together by Gil Brandt, who is a Hall of Famer, the guy who built the Cowboys. He has Juju Smith-Schuster as the top one that will play better in 2020, and number 2, Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield. You see Brady Michelle, Khalil Mack also on that list. Let's welcome back in Dan Lobby. Dan, when you look at that, a guy like Gil Brandt, you or I saying we think Baker Mayfield's going to play better is one thing. Gil Brandt's a Hall of Fame personnel guy, and he feels that way. How much better about that should Browns fans feel about Baker Mayfield?
I think they should feel really good about that. I think Baker Mayfield, we've talked about it over and over. This is built for him to be successful. And you know, when you kind of assume that he's not going to be successful, you look back at 2018 and say, well, that was an outlier. And I don't necessarily believe that. Is that the player he's going to be every single week for the rest of his career? I don't know. But he's got to be better than he was last year. And when a guy like Gil Brandt comes out and puts him number 2 on that list, and you can even make the case that maybe he should be number 1 ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster. So when a guy like Gil Brandt believes in Baker Mayfield like that, I definitely think Browns fans should take that to heart.
And when you look at it, you know, the Browns, because they really do have to figure out, is he the franchise guy that we think he is, being Baker Mayfield? You improve the line, you improve the tight end, you give him all the resources to potentially be as good as he can be, including, don't overlook the quarterback coach. Alex Van Pelt, I think that is a underrated hire by Kevin Stefanski and the Browns.
That's a great point. I think we haven't talked a lot about Alex Van Pelt because all the talk is Kevin Stefanski and his system, and he is an offensive head coach. But Alex Van Pelt has had success with other quarterbacks. You know, most recently, he really helped Andy Dalton have one of his best years. And Baker Mayfield is a more talented quarterback than Andy Dalton. Now, there's more to it than talent, of course, but he's got a better arm. He's more accurate. He should be able to do things better than Andy Dalton can when they're both at their ceilings. So I really think the structure here is going to help Baker. And, you know, Alex Van Pelt may end up being the play caller when all is said and done. Kevin Stefanski hasn't committed to calling plays. He sounds like a guy that's not really tied to doing it. And sometimes he almost sounds like a guy that just doesn't want to do it. He wants to let somebody else do it. So Alex Van Pelt, pointing him out is really smart because this is a guy that's going to play a big role in Baker Mayfield in year 3, whether he's calling plays or not. But just having him as an offensive coordinator is going to help Baker a ton.
And the other side of that is he's going to coach him pretty hard. And I think a guy like Baker Mayfield will respond to that, as opposed to, you know, last year they did not have an experienced quarterback coach. And I don't think he really understood how important being that voice inside Baker's head is.
Right. And the buddy days are over. You know, this is Kevin Stefanski coming in with no real ties to Baker Mayfield. This is Alex Van Pelt coming in, a guy who's been doing this forever and has developed guys. This is Case Keenum as the backup quarterback, a guy that if the Browns need to turn to him, I think we've overrated a little bit what Case Keenum is, but the reality is that the Browns need to turn to him. He can come in and run your offense and win you some football games. So there's a lot here that kind of says to Baker Mayfield, things are different now. You have to be better. You have to put in the work because we've put people around you that are going to push you. We put a system around you that's built to make you better. Now it's on you to go out there and prove that you're the guy and prove that last year, you know, it was everything else around you that was wrong and that you can still be the guy we saw your rookie year.
And really, the early returns look like that's kind of the way Baker Mayfield has taken it. He's organized, you know, the get-together out by him with his receivers, with some of them, and that's a good sign. You didn't see that last year. I think that's a really good sign.
Right. You didn't see him, really go after guys. You know, especially the thing I like is you can't have Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry out there because they're recovering, but he has Rashard Higgins come out, Austin Hooper, David Njoku. Some of these guys down the depth chart a little bit come out and work out with him. And the other thing, and maybe this is part of the circumstance too, but it just feels like all has been quiet with Baker Mayfield this offseason. We're not seeing him out there doing a bunch of interviews. You know, I think he was around during Super Bowl week, but everybody is. It's just all been very, very quiet. We'll see some workout videos every now and again. I think he posted an Instagram video when all those guys were at his house for a barbecue or something like that. But for the most part, it's just been a very quiet offseason for Baker Mayfield. And I think that tells you that he learned a little bit from last year, from that hype train, from kind of embracing what happened at the end of 2018 and all the hype that came with acquiring Odell Beckham and the expectations. It just seems like the approach is very different this year.
It again, it kind of seems like he's taken on, the demeanor of his head coach and his coaches. This is similar to the way he did last year. And I don't necessarily mean that to be a dig at Freddie Kitchens. It's just an observation.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, the Browns can say it was all a media creation or a fan creation all they want, but the reality is they embraced all the hype that came with last season. And I think a lot of these players and a lot of these, obviously, this is a new coaching staff, but I think the organization maybe felt a little burnt by all of that after going 6-10. They kind of realized that, hey, we've got to do it on the field before we can start taking victory laps. You got to have those victories first before the victory laps. So, I think with Kevin Stefanski coming in, Andrew Berry coming in, this is an organization that is very even keel. Kevin Stefanski, I don't know if his heart rate ever gets up. It's just always the same flat level. And I think that that's gonna rub off on guys like Baker and Odell and Jarvis and this whole organization. The expectation is going to be go win football games. Don't start taking your victory laps before you've even taken the field.